I am Helena Montez, 35 years old, and I run with the hard edge of a ledger and the quiet fire of a plan that does not know how to quit. And this is the day the past shows up wearing a new suit and pretending to be a colleague. The kind of moment that teaches a person how to read a room the way you read a stock chart, with a careful eye, a steady breath, and a memory that never forgets the sting of a betrayal that cuts deeper than any knife could. You see, I built my ascent in the city by turning every wound into a strategy and every rumor into a bet on the future. And I am Montez in every room I enter, a woman who can smell weakness in a handshake and who can turn a weakness into an opportunity. Because opportunity lives in the hush between what you say and what you do. And I learned long ago that silence is often the loudest part of a deal. So I stand at the edge of this floor, the city breathing through the glass, knowing that today I will face not a quarterly hurdle, but the setup begins with the memory I cannot outgrow, a winter I cannot forget, when I discovered that the person I loved most had a way of crossing lines with the ease of blinking, and the world kept turning while my heart slowed to a hold. And my best friend, the one I trusted with my fears and my plans, stood by the window of a crowded coffee shop and watched the story unfold as if it were a screen we could switch off. And in that moment, I realized friendship can be a weapon when weaponized by vanity, and love can be a theater where the audience forgets to breathe, and the two of them, the one who betrayed me and the one who watched, conspired in a language I did not want to learn, a language about favors and secrets, and I walked away carrying nothing but the ache of knowing I had been replaced by a rumor that could not be killed. And when the smoke cleared, I was the one left standing, counting not the number of friends, but the number of lessons, counting not the pain, but the resolve. The personal frame of this episode is simple. A former lover, a best friend who became an ally to the wrong cause, and a new report that needs a steady hand and an unshakable nerve. He is here not as a distant memory, but as a living test. A man who once believed he could slip behind my back and walk away with a sealed invitation to a life I would never grant him. And now he speaks a clean language of numbers and risk that sounds convincing. But I hear the echo of the past in every sentence, and I know the past never leaves unless you make it leave with total clarity and undeniable consequence. He now works in my department, a strange homecoming that feels like a trap dressed in a tailored suit. And I watch him move through the open plan with a practiced glance that gathers data from every corner of the room. The way his tie sits, the way his eyes dodge the eyes of others, the way a simple question opens a door to a room I am always walking into first, the room where I decide the truth will be told and the lie will be checked at the door. And I will own the room because I am not here to entertain. I am here to win a game that has been played on me for far too long. The first act of this day is the smallest and most precise, the whispered invitation to a high-stakes negotiation with a foundation that could reshape our presence in a region that needs careful repair. A deal that will require absolute trust between the two sides, yet must also be shielded from the kind of rumor that can derail a program before the morning coffee is even finished. And I know the rules well enough to bend them without breaking them. So I assign the new project to him, the man who once spent hours proving he could fit into my world when he should have known I would never share it. And I tell him nothing of the real motive behind the move. I let him hear the pitch, the numbers, the plausible reasons for the split of duties and the sharing of risks. And I watch him pretend to be surprised by the complexity, watch him pretend to be grateful for the chance. And I let the soft clack of his keyboard in the room behind the glass walls tell me the truth about his heart desire to. The truth is that I want him to feel what it is like to be measured by a ruler that has no mercy, to see that the price of betrayal is not paid with a single punch, but with a lifetime of small, deliberate losses, the kind that the world calls experience, the kind that leaves a man with fewer friends, fewer doors, fewer chances to pretend he did not know he was playing with fire. The negotiation proceeds with a meticulous calm that is both performance and shield. I speak in a voice that is even, careful, and precise, every syllable a bead on a string of discipline, every phrase a check against misinterpretation. And I watch him stumble for a moment as he realizes I am not here to reminisce or to grant mercy, but to measure him once more, to assess whether the old temper that fueled his deceit has cooled or if it still crackles behind that ready smile. He tries to frame his past as a lesson learned, a misstep that should have no bearing on the future, and I let him speak long enough to reveal the stubborn habit of blaming others for his choices, a trait I learned to recognize during the nights I spent burning away the doubt of a dozen misread signals. But I do not interrupt for the sake of vanity. I let him fill the room with his own breath until the air itself grows heavy, until the board chair leans forward a fraction, until the foundation team nods and smiles as if the weather has cleared, and then I pivot with the grace of a master, a pivot that leaves him with nothing to say but a quiet sting of truth that he cannot erase with apology. The second act is the execution, the moment when the plan steps from blueprint to action, the moment when I take their breath away, not with a shout, but with the simple, undeniable fact that I know everything he thought I would never discover. I bring to the table a dossier I did not file in the open folder for the world to see, a quiet accumulation of observed behavior, of meetings and late-night emails and a dozen small concessions from individuals who believed I would crumble under the weight of history. And I present it in a way that makes him appear not as a villain from a story we all pretend to have moved past, but as a partner in a fraud that never needed to happen. And as the data sinks in, the numbers, the witnesses, the pattern he thought he could hide, he realizes that the bridge he wanted to cross to regain my trust now leads to a cul-de-sac of consequences. And the room becomes a church of justice, with the board as the congregation and my voice as the sermon. And while I do not raise my tone, I lift the ceiling of their expectations by showing that a single misstep can ruin what a lifetime of work has built. And that I will not let a single person use my name to cover a story that does not deserve such care. The cost is not only his ego, but a cascade of changes for him and for me. A chain of decisions that remind me that vengeance wears a velvet glove and a steel spine. The man who once thought he could ride the past into a senior seat now discovers the seat will be given to a younger version of me. Someone who learned how to bleed fearlessly and to turn every betrayal into a map of opportunity. The best friend who watched the lie bloom into a future she believed would last now must confront the living proof of her own choices. A truth that tests not just loyalty but the very willingness to admit one has been used as a prop in another person's theater. I do not delight in the ruin of a former friend, but I do take pleasure in the clarity that comes when the smoke clears and you know exactly where every blade lies, where every exit is, and how to seal the only door that should ever matter. The door to the future I will build without stepping on the bones of those who thought they could break me, and then claim a share in my success. The ultimate moment arrives when the board signs off on the revised structure of the partnership. A careful balance that keeps my department intact, preserves the client relationship, and ensures that the man who betrayed me must answer not to my anger, but to the consequences of his own choices. The kind of consequences that can only be realized when someone around him has the courage to say, enough. You cannot rewrite the past by courting a new future on the backs of people who believed in you. You cannot pretend a betrayal never happened when every meeting you attend is a reminder of what you took from someone who deserved better. And so he leaves, with a warning that is less spoken than felt, a sense that his career will forever carry the record of that one mistake, while I stay, not because I crave vengeance, but because I still crave the truth. The truth that justice does not come as a loud boom, but as a quiet, tireless pressure that shapes the day after a wound is inflicted. The true. After the room quiets and the doors close behind him, I sit in the stillness of the corner office, the city losing its breath outside, the hum of the air system, a faint chorus to the heartbeat I have learned to measure with precision. And I am struck by the strange mercy I offer myself in the end, a mercy that says I will not burn the house to prove a point. I will instead invite a new order to grow from the ashes I helped incinerate. A balance sheet of revenge and restraint that allows me to keep my soul intact even as I demonstrates to the world that a daughter of hardship can rise not only to survive, but to redefine the rules, to turn a tale of deceit into a masterclass on discipline, to prove that justice can be served cold and still leave room for a wiser future. And as the skyline turns from pale to bronze in the late afternoon light, I know I have won a victory that is not merely about a single man, but about every voice that ever whispered that a woman could not be both kind and